5 session. We're going to jump straight in. We kick off in the evening, so I'm going to ask, can each of you please make me a hunger roll to see if your hunger increases as you rise for the evening.
Okay, it does not for Seth.
Seth's all right.
Seth's good.
Yeah, and Adrian's good as well. Okay, so we start the evening with Adrian Resnick heading to visit Blake Lowe, obviously to inform her about what happened at the Raynham Nature Reserve. You know that she was interested in it because apparently there was like a confluence of ley lines or something along those lines that she mentioned previously to yourself. She was very interested in it. Obviously, when you went there with Seth, Adrian, you discovered your compatriot MC Supernova apparently possessed by these strange shadowy owl creatures, an experience that eventually led to his death. And the strange shadowy spirit-like creatures made it very clear that the Raynham Nature Reserve was their territory, and you pretty much got out as quickly as you could. So we start off with you heading towards Beam Parkland, which is where Blake Lowe and Adrian Lowe make their havens, effectively. So as you're heading to the parkland, you can see the grass spread out in front of you, muted by the lack of colour that is inherent with nighttime activity. It's not lit particularly well in this park. There's some street lights, etc., around the outskirts of it, but the park itself, aside from a few little lanterns dotted along the public pathways, isn't terribly well lit, to be honest. It's a large park, as we've described previously. You can see there's a few public footpaths, but by and large it's this sort of meadow, marshy sort of expanse of land that's been flagged as green land. You follow the route you've taken previously to the small sort of building that you previously encountered Blake and Adrian at, this sort of almost small sort of scout hut style building that you would expect during the day probably hosts the staff who work in the park. There's a little map out the front of the park, etc. It's a fairly simple wooden building, 1 story, although it's pretty sort of large. You know, there's at least a couple of rooms that aren't visible if you look in through the windows on the outside, because you've done that previously. Okay, so as you're heading towards the building, you can see Adrian Lowe, this muscular man, dirty blonde dreadlocks sort of cascading down over his shoulders. He's sat with his feet up on what looks like a packing crate, a wooden crate. He's sat in one of those sort of fold-out camp chairs, the cloth and metal framework ones. He's got the large Doberman that he refers to as a dog, sort of sat next to him. It's lying down with its head on its paws. He's sat there. He's got what looks like a cigarette in one hand. He's chuffing away on it. As you're approaching along one of the many paths, he looks over, carries on like smoking his cigarette, and doesn't say anything as you approach.
Yeah, and I also don't say anything.
He
I actually look
nod.
at. I nod back. That's only respectful. I actually look at that, that map of the park, which is probably like kind of like you are here, like that type of touristy
that's
park.
exactly what it is. Yeah.
I take out my phone and just take a picture of it, just for pure like convenience, and then I just on the off chance I get lost in the park. Don't say I didn't prepare.
You see Adrian sort of like smiles a little bit. He's like the corner of his mouth twitches as he's doing that. he looks down at the dog next to him and he goes, "Eh." At which point the dog sort of stands up quite slowly and lazily, and it walks in through the door in the Scout Hall building. A few moments later, it comes out carrying in its mouth what appears to be like a folded piece of paper. Adrian reaches down, sort of ruffles the top of the dog's head, takes the paper out of the dog's mouth, and he just holds it out to you. As you look down at it, you can see it's like one of those sort of like folded like tourist maps. It's like a smaller version of the one that's on the wall, and he just holds it out to you.
Ah, old school. Okay, I like it. I take it and nod at him and put it in one of my jacket pockets.
He nods and smiles and says, well, yeah, I've never been really one for technology and all that. But anyway, what can I do for you?
How are you doing, Blake? No, how are you doing, Adrian?
He's like, oh, not too bad. Things have been pretty quiet, all told. You know, I keep myself to myself. As I've said, I don't bother anyone. People don't tend to bother me. This is the way I like it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I was wondering if you knew where Blake was.
He sort of, his eyes narrow for a few moments, and then he says, oh, Blake. He says, yeah, she's gone out for the evening, gone to meet that weird woman up at the cemetery.
Oh, Zafia.
Yeah, he clicks his fingers. Yeah, that's her name. Yeah. She's visited her a few times recently.
I kind of like pause for a moment and like just like stare at her because the idea that like Zafia didn't make enough of an impression on him for him to remember her name is kind of mind-boggling to Adrian. Yeah. Do you think she'll still be there? I kind of had information that I think she might be interested in.
He says, well, I should imagine so. I mean, I don't know for sure, but they do get to talk. The last couple of times she's gone to see her, they do get to talking pretty long. Sometimes she's only got about like an hour or two before dawn, so I'd imagine she'd still be there. I don't know. I'm not a keeper.
Oh yeah, fair enough. I think Seth might be there. I don't know. I'm not his keeper either.
He's like, he says, anyway, how are things going with you and your mate? How's the effort to weld all the kindred together and make a new society? How's that going for you? He says with a slight hint of sarcasm coming into his voice at the end of it.
You know, like herding cats.
He throws his head back and he's like, yeah. I thought you'd say something like that. He says, don't get me wrong. I never had much time for, the organisation that was around before. Like I say, I suppose I'm a bit of a loner. Like I say, live and let live. I think, and he sort of like chuckles at his own joke, and he says, but the way I see it, and he sort of like gestures with his cigarette. Says the way I see it, like the more of us get together in a bigger group, the easier we are to find. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like if I'm on my own, like doing my own thing, like I say, taking a bit here and there, but not causing too much trouble. I'm not making too many waves. But the way I see it, certainly how it used to be, the way I see it is that the more of us get together, the more we start getting back into the old habits that went before, the more them ripples start becoming big waves. And once you start making big waves, well, we've seen what happens with that, haven't we?
Yeah. Well, I can see your logic, but I still think that, within omnipresent threats like the Second Inquisition, it pays well to have friends.
Oh yeah. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying anything bad about you guys trying to set it up. I mean, it don't bother me none. I mean, I'm happy to play nice with everybody. Like I say, I'm live and let live. It's no skin off my nose, but I hope it goes well for you. But let's just say I'm a bit cautious about it.
Fair enough. A sensible attitude to have. There's one vampire one kindred that we haven't made contact with yet.
All right.
And that's the one at Carlton Security.
Carlton Security. Carlton Security. It's like, oh, I think. So if I remember correctly, isn't the, I think that's that posh get up in Chadwell Heath's got something to do with that.
Right. Is
Because
Shadwell Heath the name or a place?
you would know, sort of like having grown up in London, that Chadwell Heath is like a fairly affluent suburban area in Barking and Dagenham. It's one of the sort of like
Right.
gentrified areas, if you will. Adrian says, "Yeah, I never had much cause to go up there. You know, I mean, I stick out a bit like a sore thumb, but I do remember hearing like back in the day there was some there was a kindred up there who was sort of like getting his business on and doing whatnot. But I'm pretty sure he was from the Toreador clan, but I don't really know any details.
Ah, interesting. Yes, I've heard good things about the Toreador.
Well, they always seemed a bit high and mighty to me, to be honest. Don't think I'm not saying there's anything wrong with your more sort of like sensual and visual and whatever pursuits. You know, knock yourself out. Doesn't bother me, but I always thought that if they'd spent a bit less time sort of getting involved with stuff like that and actually like concentrated on what was going on in the actual world, they'd have done far better for themselves and they'd have probably been far happier. But what do I know?
No, it's kind of interesting that one of their sort would become involved in security.
Yeah, well, from what I gather back in the day, I mean, I'm not saying they were like the Ventra or anything, but from what I gather, they like to have their fingers in like different sort of organisations. You know, they like to have a bit of influence and a bit of push and pull and all that sort of thing. Like I say, not my bag, but
Oh, okay. Hey. Oh, I should probably get going. I have other things to investigate. Um, do you have our contact information?
he says, I don't, but I think Blake's got it.
Ah, good. Well,
I don't have like a phone or anything, so.
fair enough, fair enough. Well, feel free to contact us if you need anything.
Is he says, oh, by the way, I was going to ask, you know that place that club we met at like previously, like when you had your meeting. I've seen that it's under like new management. Is that you guys or?
No, Supernova's dead.
Oh wow!
So,
What happened?
that's the thing I wanted to talk to Blake about. He went to okay. I don't really get this mystic shit, but like
that makes two of us, mate.
Like, yeah, some place of power and some weird. I don't want to say spirit because I don't actually know what any of this shit is, but like some spirit took over his body. Didn't do him too good. Too good. I ended up giving him a thrashing anyway. So,
wow, these things happen. Says, well, I'm sorry for your loss, mate. But so if you guys aren't all up in the club anymore, when you want to have your next meeting, where's it going to be at? Because previously I was going to say if I'd wanted to contact you, I'd have just like called up the club and left a message. But obviously I can't do that now, can I?
it's a good point. You know, when I talk to Seth, we should probably figure that out ASAP.
Well, when you've got yourself like when there's like a new place set up, just let either me or Blake know, and then if I do need to get in touch with you, I'll just like leave a message wherever your place is or whatever.
Yeah, sounds good.
Right. Well, you look after yourself.
Oh, yeah. I go to leave, but I go to see if I can pet the dog.
Yeah, you pat the dog. The dog's quite happy about that. It doesn't shy away or bark at you or anything like that. It's quite happy to let you pet it. Adrian doesn't say anything. He's just sat back, sort of having a drag on his cigarette.
Yeah. Adrian secretly wants to pet the dog for a bit longer, but he can't do it without maintaining his like macho persona. So he like stands up and walks away.
Okay, no problem. And you walk away. Okay, we're now going to jump over to Seth. So, Seth, we're going to start with you heading to visit Zofia Dawson, the Hecata, who dwells at the cemetery in Rippleside. Obviously, given the fact that you've been currently evicted from your apartment while the police are investigating it, looking for signs of malfeasance on behalf of the people who built it, you were potentially considering asking Sophia whether in return for a favour or something similar you could crash at her haven. So we start off with you approaching the cemetery at Rippleside. It's very much as we've described it previously. There's the iron gates around it. You can see the old night watchman is sat on his little chair by the gate. You can see there's the numerous bits of statuary dotted about.
So I'm outside the gate.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll because the night watchman is there, I'm going to go a little bit further and then I'm going to try and climb over the fence.
That's fine. You don't need to roll for that or anything. You've got plenty of time. You're under no stress. So yeah, it takes a little bit because the gates are quite, and the fence is quite tall. But yeah, you climb over it. You drop softly onto the slightly damp, spongy grass beyond, and you start weaving your way through the grave. You see the various angel statues as you're heading past, and you head up to the small sort of parlour of repose, the small mortuary house that's at the top.
I'll actually, at the last angel statue that I pass,
Yeah.
I'm going to say that it's me. I want to talk.
Okay, you do so.
And then I'll go to the door to wait.
Okay, not a problem. You head to the door. Just as you're arriving at the door, it opens and you can see Sophia Dawson stood there with her sort of skull face makeup on. As she opens the door, you hear a familiar voice. You know it to be that of Blake Lowe, coming from inside the building. Says, "Who is it?" Sophia turns around to look back into the room and says, "It's Seth Morgan." At which point you hear Blake say, "Oh," and Sophia turns back towards you and says, "Come in, Mr. Morgan."
Yeah, and I will do so.
Okay, she leads you into the main area. You can see Blake Lowe sat on a small chair in the main room. There's another couple of chairs sort of dotted around, fairly comfy chairs, because this is where people tend to come when they're arranging for funerals and such like. So it's all decked out in sort of calming colours. It's all very comfortable, etc. There's like flowers dotted around. There's a little computer, stuff like that. Sophia leads you in. She gestures to one of the chairs and she sits down herself. And then she says, "So, what can I do for you, Mr. Morgan?"
Hello, yes. I was going to propose a business arrangement of a very particular kind.
At which point Blake says, "Oh, is this something private? Because if it is, I can make myself scarce and come back in a bit."
I would say so, yeah. If you wouldn't mind. Of
She
course,
says-
I'm the new arrival. I don't want to step on any toes.
Blake says, "Oh, not at all. It's fine." And she points at one of the doors into one of the other rooms. She says, "I'll just go and wait through there. give us a knock on the door when you're finished, and I'll come back in. Zafir looks at Blake and says, "Thank you for your understanding, Miss Lowe." She says, "Oh, fine, not at all, not at all." And she heads into the other room, shuts the door behind her. You hear like the latch click on it. Zafir watches her go, slowly turns her head back towards you, Seth, and says, "So then."
Like I said, I would like to propose an arrangement. I find myself being, well, not myself as such, but some of my assets indisposed for truly an undefined amount of time.
That must be inconvenient.
And it is very much so, and I would rather not take the unnecessary risks in hastening the dispelling of this situation, and instead just see it right out on its own. But for that to happen, I need something else.
Zafir replies, "Do you mind if I ask what the situation is precisely?"
There is a place where it is safe to spend the day. And such a place has been more or less commandeered by the authorities, going about their entirely unrelated business,
I see.
which, as luck would have it, has caused great discomfort and inconvenience, just by the nature of it was a safe haven. However, this structure is now effectively off limits. I cannot use it. I do not know how long this will take. The authorities are probably ripping through it. There's nothing there to expose anyone. They have their own business to take care of, which I'm not involved in. So there's at least that. But the fact is, I've lost a safe spot for the day.
And how is it you believe that I can assist in this matter?
You have the experience, which would indicate to me that you have resources to survive, which would in turn indicate that you have a place or places to stay and contingencies to boot. Now,
That is true.
I haven't walked in here presuming that you would lay your contingencies out. What I am asking is, would you be willing to lend me a place, whether it is here or somewhere else, that I can spend the day safely? I can make my own arrangements, but I thought to turn to you first to see if we can come to an arrangement.
I do have a number of alternate havens located in places similar to this. That is entirely correct, of course. If you wish the use of one of those, I can certainly, with a little time, prepare one of those, and I am happy to lend it to you for a small period of time. Of course, this would place you somewhat in my debt.
That goes without saying. But it is nonetheless good that we have said it.
Indeed. Very well. And if you will give me until the end of the evening, I will make preparations for you to use my haven at the East Brookend Cemetery.
I'm just peering at the map now, trying to see if there's.
It's another cemetery located in Barking.
Ah, okay, yeah. I was thinking like if it's in a different place. But, okay, yeah, yeah. So I will nod,
And we will say that you will owe me a favour.
yes, of course.
Very well then.
And beyond that, you do have my gratitude.
She nods.
Should I stay hereabouts, or
I'm happy for you to remain here if you wish. If you would do me the courtesy of knocking on the door over there to summon Miss Lowe back into the room.
Yeah.
Although as a member of Clan Tremere, I would be surprised if she has not been listening to everything that we've been saying.
I will nod and go and knock on the door.
You knock on the door a few moments later. It opens and Blake Lowe is stood there and he says, are you done?
Quite. Yes, please.
She walks back into the main room, at which point Zafir turns to you, Seth, says, yes, Miss Lowe here was just discussing a potential venture to pool our, and she pauses as though thinking of the correct words, mystic resources for the betterment of both of us. Blake nods as she's saying this.
Now, this is quite the thing. We haven't exactly known for an extended period of time, though I have cherished the time and the communications that we have shared. I'll be looking between Sophia and Blake to indicate both of them. But I have to confess that this is one of the areas in which, well, I suppose it's presumptuous to assume any kind of expertise when it comes to this existence. But this is particularly an area in which I feel rather ignorant. Now, we have had our discussions, and I'll motion to Zofia.
Zafir nods and then says, however, acknowledging ignorance is the first step to dispelling it.
Yes, and rather, I worked in, as I think I mentioned before, I did work in intelligence before in my previous life. So the concept isn't new. My job was starting from nothing and working towards something. Would you mind if I sit in? Of course, if you have private details to show it out, I will be happy to make use of the adjacent room with the associated knocking ritual.
Okay, so at this point, as you're saying that, we're going to jump back across to Adrian. Adrian, you've made your way to the Rippleside Cemetery to try and go and visit Zafir, like looking for Blake. And you've hopped over the fence. It's not a problem for someone like yourself. And you're making your way up there. As you head up to the main mortuary building and you're sort of heading past the windows which allow you to see into the main room, you can see sat on the sort of comfortably upholstered chairs in there, you can see Zafir, Blake Lowe and Seth. Obviously you can't hear him fully through the window, but you can just see like Seth just like talking to the two of them.
Okay. Gonna dispel one myth about vampires and just open the door uninvited.
Okay. So, Seth, the door opens. You see Adrian Resnick stood in the door. Zafir and Blake both look up as the door opens.
I say like way too casually.
Hello. It seems like we have a soiree in the making.
Yeah, I would have bought my finest red if I'd known.
Zafir says, I would appreciate it, Mr. Resnick, if you were to inform me when you're entering my territory in future.
Right. Sorry about that.
I believe that was one of the edicts that you were seeking to establish for this new society yourself and your friends were forming.
Yeah, sorry, it just slipped my mind.
Well, I believe since one of your companions, and she sort of like looks quizzically at you, Seth, and says, coterie mates?
I believe that's
Yes.
the word.
Well, since one of your coterie mates is already here, I believe we can have a look at this once. Please, will you, when you take a seat, Mr. Resnick?
Sure. I like sit down and I like turn to Blake, like, I was just looking for you.
Well, you've definitely found me, she says.
Yeah. Oh man, I don't even know how to. I thought you might be interested. So MC Supernova is dead. That's not the interesting part.
Her eyes widen.
So, yeah. Apparently he was at some sort of place of power where some weird spirit thing possessed his body.
She says, "Oh yes, you were telling me that he went to the where when you came to my haven looking for him. I mentioned that he seemed quite interested when I mentioned the Rain and Marsh Nature Reserve to him.
Yeah. In fact, that place probably seems, if the spirit or whatever, I don't know how the shit works, is contained there. That place is probably too dangerous to visit.
She sort of again raises an eyebrow as you say that, and then says, "Well, it would make sense for there to be more spiritual activity in such an area, given that it is a particularly powerful convergence of ley line energy. That would only make sense. The barrier between the worlds of the material and the spiritual will be more permeable there."
Does it have utility?
I don't mean to sound dismissive, but perhaps not to yourself, but to those of a more mystical persuasion. Such places, if the energy can be tapped appropriately, then it can greatly aid with some of our more difficult workings. That's why I'm interested in such places.
Huh. Yeah. Okay. So, in second thought, maybe it's worth clearing out. Can those spirits be cleared out? I kind of look between her and Zafir.
Zafir sort of holds her hands up and says, my domain is more with the shades of the dead rather than spirits as such. I would bow to Miss Lowe's expertise in that area." And Blake says, "Well, it would depend on the type of spirit. I can't really say without a great deal of further investigation and information. I had hoped eventually to map out the mystical places of power in London, but obviously with everything that occurred with Antigen and the Camarilla and stuff like that, it moved far down my list. Survival was obviously the highest priority. It's something I'm hoping to get back to when things have settled down a bit. I mean, I almost came across the power running through Rain and Marsh Reserve by chance, since it's in Haveringham. It's only one borough over, but if as you say, it's so dangerous, it may be wise to concentrate on other areas first. But I'm still in the process of investigating and trying to map out some of these areas. It's a long and laborious and tiring process, as is the case with a lot of these mystical workings. And she laughs a little bit. I know a lot of people think that Clan Tremere, we can just snap our fingers and make magic happen, but what a lot of people don't appreciate is that there's an awful lot of background research and tedious slog when it comes to mystical workings. After all, normally with these things, if you mess up and it goes wrong, you don't get a second chance at it. So you can be damn sure I want to make certain that all my research is as correct as it can possibly be before I get involved in any sort of working.
Interesting. Question. Is there anything that could make it easier for you to find these places? And what could you achieve if you did have access to some?
Well, there are certain signs of places that are, to put it in layman's terms, that are more imbued with mystical power. One of them you've highlighted yourself, the presence of spirits and other entities that normally find interacting with the material world challenging. They find it easier in such places, so they tend to congregate around them. That is certainly a sign. Places where there tend to be urban legends where particularly traumatic events have occurred, all can be signifiers of a place that has a certain amount of mystical power. In terms of the benefit to ones like myself, it's quite a technical thing. Suffice it to say, as I've said, if you can draw on the power in those places, certain mystical, perhaps this is a better way of explaining it, you've experienced, I'm sure, in your time as a kindred, if you feed off someone who is experiencing strong emotions, those emotions can be conveyed somewhat through the blood and can be reflected in your own emotions. So if you feed off someone who is intensely full of anger, you will find your own anger roused in response to it. It's similar with mystic workings. If we're doing a working that is particularly resonant with the aura or the energy in a place, we find it much easier to accomplish rather than if we are just doing it in a normal place or somewhere that doesn't have the appropriate resonance for the working. Obviously, it varies depending on what working you're trying to accomplish. And I don't mean to sound like I'm belittling you, but I'm trying not to get too much into technical terminology here. But suffice to say, it would make certain of my arts easier if I could find appropriate places. And also, to be honest, putting that aside, because these places tend to attract entities and other such things, they can be potential trouble spots. So it's worth keeping an eye on them, purely to make sure they don't get out of hand.
Interesting.
Now, there are ways you can sort of bleed off the resonance of an area. So let's say you went to a place where there was a particularly traumatic event. If you wanted to lessen the impact of that, you could encourage activities in that area that were opposed to that resonance. And over time, it would lessen and an equilibrium would be established.
So you can undo these places of power?
You can't entirely undo them, and it's a tricky task, because if you're trying to bring in an opposing force, if you will, if there are any entities in that place, they will no doubt butt against it and try and stop whatever you're doing. But if you can sort of bleed away the excess energy, you can not cancel it out, but you can return it to normality, at which point those creatures who are feeding and empowered by the resonance in an area will head off to greener pastures, so to speak. But by consequence, it does then become less useful to one such as myself. But sometimes that's the price you have to pay if it's particularly troubling.
So if you had access to would it be beneficial to have access to all of these or only a few?
It would certainly be beneficial to be aware of any sites that have a particularly strong resonance, certainly within the borough. Obviously, I'm only one person, so it probably wouldn't be possible for me to use more than a couple of them, and it would depend on what workings I'm doing. So you need the appropriate site with the right resonance for the working that I was undertaking. But it'd certainly be worth being aware of them, and if any of them, because they're of different strengths, if there are any particularly powerful ones that may be troubling, they might be the ones where it's worth potentially, if not returning them completely to normal, just lessening them a little bit. But I've not. In order to create a resonance like this, you need somewhere where extremely strong emotions or traumatic events occurred over a long period of time.
Yeah, I may know of a place.
She leans forward, looking interested, and says, "Oh,
I'm not sure. Well, a bunch of horrifying supernatural shit went down. I'm not sure how. Um, if that necessarily means it's a place of power, but you ever heard of the Death House cannibals?
says it rings a vague bell.
Oh yeah.
I mean, what wasn't it in the news recently?
Yes, it was. Kind of tasteless report, if you ask me. But yeah, it's yeah, about a decade or so ago. Some people were murdered there. Some police officers died, and yeah, it was evidence of the bodies being eaten. Yeah, pretty fucked up shit. The place is still there. It's closed.
Well, that would certainly potentially qualify it for being one of these places. Yes, I mean, I presume it still has a reputation now since it was in the news recently. So, and
Oh yeah.
such places do tend to have a lingering reputation.
You know what I Okay, so that type of thing would potentially be a place of power. I could probably I don't know if this is a benefit to you, but I could probably, I don't know, hire a researcher, research local folklore or something.
Are we talking about a human researcher?
Yeah, they wouldn't know exactly why we're doing this.
I can see the wisdom in what you're saying, Mr. Rasnicker, but I'm a little bit cautious about using too many mortal. See, the thing about humans, wonderful as they are, they have a habit of putting things together, even if you try and keep them out of your business. So I'm a little bit unsure of the wisdom of hiring someone to look into these things. I'd hate to have to. If we did hire someone, I'd hate for them to stumble across our actual goal and then us have to deal with them. If you get my meaning.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Um how likely do you think that is? I mean, how many humans do you think know about any of this shit?
It's difficult to say. I mean, I think that there are a lot of people who have maybe heard legends. They they have a sort of spiritual side to them. As to how many of them actually believe in this sort of thing, it's difficult to tell. There are people out there who do. I mean, obviously, we just to give an example, we know obviously at least one group of mortals is aware of our existence. So I can't overlook the possibility there may be other people out there with knowledge of more esoteric matters, shall we say.
Huh, interesting.
But yes, I'd certainly be interested in having more information on local law, anything that would enable me to narrow down my list of potential sites. Obviously, with it just being myself and my grandfather at the moment, and if following our discussions, Zafira is willing to help. Zafira just nods and doesn't say anything. Then obviously we could expand our investigations a little bit, but there are only so many of us, and there are an awful lot of potential sites just within Barking and Dagenham.
Well, I think it's a project worth considering.
And if you were to hire a researcher to investigate this on my behalf, what would you be looking for in return?
I don't know. I don't really think that far ahead. Maybe just I don't know. Say a favor of equal value. Yeah.
That seems reasonable. He sort of like smiles a little bit and then says, "Do we need to shake on it or anything?"
Yeah, this seems super formal. And I hold up my hand.
She sort of smiles and like shakes your hand. Says, "Very well then. If you can hire a researcher, let me know what they find. Assuming, of course, they find anything useful, I owe you a favour."
All right. All right, Nate. So I should probably find a proper haven at some point.
At which point, Zafir says, "Well, since you have mentioned that, your colleague, Mr. Morgan, has, in return for owing me a small favour, has requested the use of one of my alternate havens. There would certainly be space for yourself if you both wish to stay in proximity of each other. But I leave that to yourself and Mr. Morgan to work out."
Yeah. I look at Sif and I'm like, yeah, it might be prudent. But no. I'm planning to buy, I don't know, a penthouse or something somewhere, something real nice.
At which point Blake says, I would caution you, Mr. Resnick. Sorry, I know I keep calling you Mr. Resnick, but with you having the same first name as my grandfather, it's going to get awful confusing if I start referring to you as Adrian, so sorry about that.
Yeah.
But she says,
Oh, good.
I'd caution you against getting anything too ostentatious. After all, the more obviously I can see that you're more than capable of looking after yourself.
Yeah.
But the more you register on people's radar, the more dangerous it'll potentially be for you and the rest of us. I mean, let's face it. That's what happened with some of the kindred before. It was the first to go were the ones who had the swanky havens, the extended network of influence, all the stuff that could be traced back to them.
Interesting. Yes, I'll think about what you said. It might be a more prudent way to manage this.
And I certainly think so. I'd advise you to keep your head down at least a little bit. I mean, after all, wasn't that what we were all talking about at the first meeting? You know, trying to stay off the radar and lie low.
Yes.
At which point, Zafir looks over at Seth and says, "Is there anything else?"
Well, going forward, apparently quite a lot. For the moment, we probably have the arrangements to take care of. So no.
Very well. And do you have a phone number where I can reach you once I've made arrangements for you to use my backup haven?
Yeah, I'll give her the number.
it's like written on a piece of paper. She takes it off you and says, "It'll take me a couple of hours to make the necessary arrangements. I'll contact you once it's done."
Very good. And thank you.
She nods.
Well, we shall be well about our business.
Okay, so the two of you say your farewells. You head out of Rippleside Cemetery, sort of hopping over the fence again to make your way out. The two of you are stood together a short way down the street, so in the flickering light of a street lamp. Obviously, you have a bit of time to have any discussions or have a bit of chat if you wish.
Um, so if I want to go visit the Carlton security people, I don't like that there's a vampire that we don't know about.
Okay.
And yeah, and so if I had another idea, so do you remember that manager at the new club? Can you hear me? Yeah.
Sorry?
Remember that manager at the new club?
Yeah.
Yeah. You go. Didn't he give off? I know he wasn't, but didn't he give off vampire vibes, kindred vibes?
Well, there's something going on there.
I was just thinking, what if there were more mortals like that gave off kindred vibes?
There's
You know?
entire subcultures around this.
Yes. I'm just saying, maybe those subcultures could be cultivated, and it might give the Inquisition too many targets to pick the right one.
To blend in, you're saying?
Yeah.
I mean, I used to listen to The Cure back in the day. I could still probably do my
Yeah.
hair up. It's not as long as it was back then, but
No, I sort of mean trying to cultivate more of the subculture.
like you mean like foster the events and the sort of hobby
Yeah,
aspect of it.
yeah, that sort of thing. Um, yeah, like yeah, it would be interesting if there were a lot of people who acted like vampires. It might make it easier for us.
Yeah, so we want to tap into the gothic and the alternative scene and
Yeah.
make it a real big smoke screen.
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
Well, that sounds like I haven't really looked into it, but I have a feeling like we might need. Of course, punk never died, so goth probably didn't
Yeah.
either. So the moldering corpse of goth is probably shambling around still somewhere around Camden, and we could probably try and start a new wave of things. We'll need a bunch of course, sort of the icons, the things that push it forward, by which I mean
Yeah.
probably music.
Yeah.
So we would need some musical acts to start this.
Yes. Yes.
Are we
It's a good
starting
idea.
a company, Adrian? Is that what that was happening? Are we starting a promotion thing here?
Well, we already got into that business deal with that guy.
Yeah, well, I
So
suppose, yeah.
there's a door open there.
Yeah, I think it's a fairly good idea. If you saturate the public eye with more things, it becomes more difficult to discern us, I guess. But
Yeah.
then we also have to blend in, though. So I don't know how
Yes.
you feel about that.
Exactly.
do you
Yeah.
do you want to
Well, it's
hang
kind
in
of hard to.
clubs with 20 somethings with way too much makeup on and the sort of
Uh,
cobwebs everywhere?
yeah,
Is
that
that
sounds
your
fun. It just sounds fine, but it also just seems like there's like a sort of bigger picture where we just cultivate like the scene.
Mhm.
But there seems to be another like where we could just I don't know, like for example that manager, we could like spread rumors that there's this mysterious manager that isn't seen on during the day or something.
Mhm.
And if you're investigating this area, you're going to be like, that guy.
Mhm.
I have to look at this guy. And if we know to look for people who are looking out for that guy, then it's a way of keeping tabs on Inquisition activity in the area without calling attention to ourselves.
Mhm. Right. So it's a smoke screen and a bait.
Yeah. Um,
Mhm.
also, and this is going to sound really callous. Um, Wait, sorry, just out of what happens to vampires when they die again? Do they turn to dust or?
They turn to the age that their corpse would be normally. So the old ones
Okay, okay,
flow into oblivion, but the
okay.
fresh ones might be a pile of rotting viscera.
Right, so it might if you kill a new vampire, they would appear to die like a normal
Yeah,
person.
yeah.
Okay, okay. Well, never mind my tangent then. But yes, yes. I think this will be a good idea. Make our make our little corner of the city more livable for our kind.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. And there's probably a lot we can leverage if there's this cultural smoke screen going, which I do think we need to fan the flames of, though. It's going to take some work.
Yeah, we have to bring golf back.
Yeah.
Um,
And like I said, we could probably stop by Camden and figure it out, or what's
yeah.
going on.
Yes.
But aside from that, I don't I don't have anything right now. It wasn't really my thing in my more recent years, but there's something there we can use for sure, and it goes
Yeah.
well with our friends here as well, um, Blake and Zofia as well. Probably all
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah. Also a question.
Hmm.
Um, a conversation with Blake made
Yeah.
me painfully aware that I don't possess any of the more esoteric abilities of our kind.
Oh,
Um,
you just have the normal
oh,
vampire things.
I don't. Oh, I don't know. Like, you find someone and they're stronger than you suspect. That's fine, but I don't know all this other stuff.
Hmm.
The magic shit. Um, do you have some of that shit, right?
I don't exactly know what I have. It's more Zophia's thing, and she
Right.
has a lot more of whatever it is that I do.
Do you think you could learn to harness these places of power?
I have absolutely no idea, but given that Sophia thinks it's a rather big deal that I have something akin to what she has, maybe. Um, I
Interesting.
wouldn't know how to go about that because it's not like I'm going to places of power and lighting up incense and chanting mantras and whatnot, like drawing mandalas on the ground. That's not something I do. It's
Sorry, what clan were you again?
so, John. I guess we would know about the clans as far as we talked about having the sort of very basic knowledge of things. Though I think I probably didn't know the words for it before I maybe talked to someone else, because my whole thing was my sire made me to be cannon fodder. Probably
Yeah.
didn't give a shit. So like made me and like tossed me into the into the fire, and I survived accidentally. And then maybe someone else told me like, oh, it was that guy, and that guy was blank. So now I'm blank as well.
Yeah.
So uh, so the clans, so the family, I guess, the lineage would
Yeah.
be what you call the la sombra in Spanish. I don't know what they call it in English.
Now, Messiah mentioned something about them. I don't know the details. Apparently, we're supposed to be enemies. I have no idea why.
Really?
Hmm.
Is there do we
Yeah,
have
you,
ethnic
you.
differences? Is that a thing? Because
Hey,
I didn't
I don't see race. I just see
really.
red.
I just see red. Good one, Irene. No, I
uh,
mean, I think honestly, um, my sire didn't teach me anything except, I guess, by accident, how not to die, which I was kind of good at before. So I
well,
don't have like no one taught me this shit. I knew some going in by virtue of having looked.
I
Yeah.
yeah, I thought my sire had taught me everything I needed to know, but I don't know. I think his information might have been a bit biased. For one, his disdain for the quote unquote low clans. I
What's
found
that about then?
I don't know, some sort of division. He
Yeah.
did have yes, he did have some sort of yes, a preference for the Ventru and the Toreador.
Okay.
Um, but Eleanor's a gangrel, and she seemed quite capable.
Hmm. Yeah. No, I think it's probably by virtue of what we are. I bring in whatever I had or was when I was
Mhm.
alive. So
So,
probably others bring that as well, and you bring in all your baggage, the wreck of a human being that you are before you get turned into this, and if
yeah,
that seems entirely logical that you would bring in over those aspects of who you are as a person. So if your sire was someone who actually like talked to you, they probably had massive bias towards whatever
uh,
they were trying to do.
At this point,
yeah.
you're
Yeah.
interrupted by your mobile ringing, sir.
Oh shit. Fuck. Uh, oh. Again. I'll. So where are we at the moment? We've been talking, I
Yeah,
guess, in
you're
the.
just sort of talking and walking.
Yeah.
So you're walking through the
Yeah.
streets of Barking.
Yeah. So I'll pop into an alley,
Yeah, yeah.
find a dumpster, open my thing on the dumpster and punch it with chopsticks and talk into it. Like, hello. And this is where we need to get into it, because now I'm using it. So I need to roll for this shit to actually, because it's a call, right?
Yes.
So actually, yeah, I will listen first. I will punch it to make it connect, and then I will listen if there's something that comes through without me talking.
Okay, so you hear a female voice on the other end say, "Hello, Mr. Smith."
Fuck. Okay. Um. Yeah, I will now try to use the phone, which is one of the greatest obstacles in my life. Um, okay, so I have a difficulty of 3 to use this phone at the moment. So, uh, let's see. So that's a technology test. John, any preference for the other thing?
I'm open to suggestions.
I honestly have little idea what it, unless it's just. Let me consult someone who might have the answer.
Yeah, I'm just gonna grab some food. I'll be right back.
No problems.
Yeah. So yeah, something plus technology. So the easy ones would be intelligence, wits, I guess, for like using tech.
Yeah, let's go for. I'm happy if you'd use either intelligence or wits, whichever you prefer.
Yeah. Well, out of those, the answer is like my preference is always wits because it's twice my intelligence.
Yep,
So,
go for it then.
um, okay, so I have nothing in technology, so we're going with pure wits. Here we go. I need 3 on this. No modifiers. I have 2, and I'm going to spend willpower on that. So I will re-roll the 1 and the 4
Okay.
out of my regular dice. So 2 dice. In addition to those, yes, 1 more.
Okay. So
So I actually managed to get my voice through. So I will answer as like, yes, this is Mr. Lee.
oh hi, this is Inspector Kamal. We spoke the other day at your residence. I regret to inform you that the business with your home is taking a little while longer. We've unfortunately discovered a little bit more than we expected. And then you hear her sort of talking to someone in the background as though she's like put her hand over the phone and she's like talking to someone, and you hear her say, "Oh, yes, it must have fallen out of my wallet. Thank you, PC Miller. That no, it's a picture of the people I trained with. Oh, really? That's a coincidence. But thank you very much. Thank you very much." And then she said, "Oh, I'm sorry about that. Yes, as I was saying, we've found a little bit more than we expected. So I'm afraid the excavations are going to take a few more days. But I wanted to call you and just let you know what was going on."
Well, is there going to be a house left for me to return to? I mean, if you're
Yeah,
going
yes,
to.
yes. We'll relay the concrete floor, and we'll have it all as good as new before you move back in.
Okay, okay. Uh, right, I guess yeah, nothing to be done then.
Thank you very much for your cooperation and understanding, Mr. Smith. It's greatly appreciated.
Okay, yeah, yeah, no problem. Well, not really helping here, but I mean, yes. So good luck, I guess.
Thank you. And as I say, if as soon as we have any more news, I will contact you and let you know. Again, thank you very much for your cooperation.
Okay, yeah, no, that's good, great.
Okay,
Okay,
take care. Bye. Dude.
bye. And I'll just like close the thing, put it away, and I'll like side eye Adrian because that was probably the first time we had a very like close look at just how fucking terrible it is for Seth to operate this shit. And it's for no discernible reason. Like there's nothing visible about like why is this like it is. So I'll just fold the phone away, put the chopsticks in my coat pocket, just like stand there.
Yes. Do we have a destination?
I was thinking we could, because we had set up the meeting with the club folk.
Yes, yes. Oh, that would be a good opportunity to talk to them about bringing Guff back. Do you think there's time in the night to go to Carlton Security?
I mean, yeah,
Uh,
why not?
oh,
So this sounds like a place with cameras, though. Just
yes.
sounds like it would be camera city, you know?
Yes, I suppose. Um, should we stop by and maybe survey the situation first?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Uh,
Like all normal. Like I don't know
yeah,
why. So we want to check out who's there. Is that thing?
yes.
Okay.
Maybe if we can do some minor things to draw the attention of the vampire to
Mm.
us.
As
I
you're
can do it
having,
very
sorry,
easily. Oh, sorry. You
no,
go.
no, fun. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say like, oh, that will be very easy if I get caught on camera. That is going to be. We can
Yes,
draw
and
them out with the quickness, but we don't want
yeah.
to. The exposure is going to be a problem.
Well, if they're kindred, then they'll likely know to keep that, to dispose of that evidence.
Yeah, or they will come knocking, and then
Mm,
I'll have to knock back.
mm.
But yeah, John.
As you're having this conversation and you're sort of walking down the street, I'm going to wait to check that Adrian's actually there because this is something that relates to his character.
I will be
No,
literally
no,
30
that's
seconds.
fine. Go for it, dude. Go for it.
I can't believe I actually made that roll. I could actually use the phone
Oh, hey, man.
because it's been easy so far because it's just been other people using it for me and sending
Yep.
me information. It's just great.
It's the benefit of having some willpower.
Yeah. Yeah, I do like how the willpower works. The re-rolling instead of the plus
Extra
one
dice.
success. Yeah.
That is quite cool.
Yeah, and I like how it interacts with hunger. Because the hungrier you are, the less your willpower matters. Because the hunger takes over, and you can't touch those with the willpower.
Yep.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I had nothing but thumbs up from me about the hunger mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
Splendid. Okay, so as you're having this conversation, you're just like walking through the streets as we described previously, talking about what you can do. Adrian, you catch sight of a gentleman with long, sort of scraggly long hair, a small goatee beard, and quite a sort of penetrating stare. And it's just like walking on the opposite side of the street, and sort of heading down an alleyway. And you know when you see someone and you're like, oh, I know them from somewhere, but I can't quite place them. And for a few moments, you're not sure who it is, and then you remember it's a man called Andrew Crawford. He was quite a famous boxer who became a cage fighter, but that was like years ago when you were sort of like young and just starting out in the biz, so to speak. And you vaguely remember. I mean, you're probably a bit of a fan of his back in the day, but he was sort of like he was like the Hulk Hogan of sort of cage fighting, like back in the day. He was sort of quite a big presence. But then you remember reading some stories about like he apparently like disappeared, and like no one saw anything of him, and he's virtually forgotten about nowadays. But you're pretty sure that's who you've just seen. But he looked the same as he did when you sort of would have seen him like in action all those years ago.
Are you saying he's some sort of ghost?
Maybe. And I say you see him. He doesn't appear to notice you guys. He just walks down the opposite side of the street and then like, heads into an alleyway.
Hey, Seth, have you ever had. What do you think's the second most random thing to happen to you um, after you were embraced? Aside from being embraced, of course.
I guess probably that time when I made my house, or rather, I made my bed on top of a corpse in the concrete, and then that corpse talked to me. That was probably the yeah.
So I just saw a legendary boxer who looks exactly the same as they did 20 years ago. I think that's worthy of
Yeah,
investigation.
do we know any people like that? Hmm.
So
So okay, what are we doing about it?
oh, I'm following him.
Okay, yeah, please lead on. Let's see where
Yeah.
this trail goes.
Okay,
I go
so,
after them.
yep. So you follow. You head to the alleyway. You saw Andrew Crawford, who went by the stage name Grizzly, because he had like this. He used to like come on like wearing furs in a sort of like Vandal Savage style as like part of his like stage persona. So like bear furs and sort of stuff like that. You head to the alleyway. You saw him duck down, and it's your typical sort of trash-strewn alleyway with like dustbins and whatnot in it, between a couple of residential buildings. As you look down at the alleyway, you can see this tall figure. I mean, he's pretty similarly built to you, to be honest, Adrian. You can see him stood at the end, and he's talking to a young woman with blonde hair. And they appear to be having, you see like he's waving his arms, while they appear to be having quite a heated discussion at the end of this alleyway.
Hang on. I duck behind a dumpster bin and see if I can listen in on the conversation.
Okay, that is absolutely fine. Can you please make me some sort of dex stealth roll, I think. And obviously, if you're trying to remain hidden as well, Seth, likewise.
Oh, Dex stealth, you mean?
Yeah,
I shall conjure the shadow cloak.
I understand.
Hang on. That should be none. Submit. That roll.
Yeah.
Oh,
great.
damn.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. So you're sort of tucked away. Yep, Seth, likewise, you both position yourself behind like one of the, those large sort of dumpster style bins. You position yourself behind it, but you're about halfway down the alleyway. You've crept in, aided by Seth's shadow cloak, and you're just close enough to sort of hear the end of their conversation. You hear Andrew say, "Look, what makes you think she'll even listen to you in the first place?" The young woman responds, "Well, because I know what she's been through. Look, I've been there myself." Yeah. Look, we all know what it's like to be abandoned. Anyway, I hear she's a Nosferatu. We've got that in common. Huh. You ain't no Nosferatu. Yeah, but I could have been, though. Look, Andrew, I got lucky. She didn't. But that doesn't mean I don't know what she's going through. Well, I suppose if you think it's worth asking, what did Finn say about it? Look, Finn said I was fine to at least go and ask. I mean, there's no harm in asking, is there? Well, do you need me to come with you as backup or whatever? Look, I can take care of myself, but if you want to come with me, that's absolutely fine. It's a fair distance to the park from here. At least I'll have some conversation on the way. I mean, I know you're not exactly one for deep and meaningful conversations, Andrew, and he's like, huh, wow, yeah, you're right there, but what would it be dangerous about? I'd at least feel a bit better travelling along with you. I mean, I know you've got your thing, but it'd make me feel a bit better knowing that you got someone with a bit more muscle behind you if you needed it. But I don't think I'm going to need that, Andrew. But if it makes you feel better, sure, fine. Right. Well, we best think about getting on with it then. Where did you say this this woman was located anyway. He says, oh, it's one of the parks on the outskirts. It's called the Layers. Oh yeah, I know it. All right, let's get going then. Sooner we get this over, sooner we can get back. Fine, come on then. And the two of them start sort of heading, because there's only one exit out of this alleyway. The two of them start heading back down the alleyway towards where you're concealed.
If Seth looks like he's literally like blended into the shadows, then I'm not going to consider that much of a problem.
It's more like the ambient shadows are always favorable to Seth. So like if there is shadow, life finds a way, and it conceals Seth. It's not
Yeah.
just like witness my dark power.
Yeah, it's more a case of like he just happens to have like concealed himself in like a patch of like darkness, but it doesn't look inherently unnatural.
Right. Yeah, so in that case, I'm just gonna like lean my back against the dumpster and make it look like I'm really wasted.
Okay, so the two of them sort of like draw level with you. Andrew looks across, sees you. He starts like slowing his pace down a bit, and the young woman says, Andrew, we haven't got time, come on. And he's like, all right, fair enough, and he just walks past you. And the two of them carry on out of the alleyway.
We should probably follow them further.
Yeah, I'm gonna send Amanda a text.
Okay.
Okay, what are you sending her on the text?
I send again, like probably with like code. I'm just saying like, hey, how's it going? I hear two people are coming to visit you soon. Didn't realize you were having a party. Steph and I will be there in a moment.
Okay, so like less than a minute later, you get back just like a string of question marks.
Wait, did we establish a code with her? No,
Well,
I don't think we did.
A series of question marks is just like generically like, what?
I sent her a text saying you heard me, even though that might not any sense in written format.
Okay, after a few moments, your phone stops ringing. Adrian,
Yeah, hello?
you answer the phone and you hear Amanda's voice on the other end, and she says, "Sorry, what are you on about? A party?
Sorry.
What?"
Sorry, we should have like worked on some sort of code. Anyway, two vampires are coming to visit you. We happen to overhear them. We are currently en route to your location as well.
To visit me? Which two is it?
I haven't heard of them before, but one big guy and one, I don't know, small woman might have some powers.
All right, okay. Have you got any idea why they're coming to visit me?
They didn't seem entirely hostile intentions, but I think it's better we go to where you are just to make sure.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm where I usually am.
All right. Well,
All right,
see you.
Yeah, see you in a bit.
So, how extensive is the CCTV cameras in London? Like,
Pretty extensive. There are a lot of CCTV
Like,
cameras in London.
Like number one in the world, I think.
I mean,
Okay.
to be honest, you've probably realised that part of the reason why so many of the kindred seem to like have havens in parks is because they're some of the places that aren't like CCTV'd up to the max. Likewise with the funeral homes, because it'd be like too intrusive. So
all right.
it's a safe bet. That's why a lot of kindred lair in those places.
Okay. So would it be out of the question for me to able to like I don't know hotwire a car if I find one out of like sight?
It's not unfeasible. I mean, it'd be difficult to do it entirely without being captured on CCTV. You'd need to make a roll, but
Yeah.
it's not out of the bounds of possibility. And as you're musing on this, and you sort of like you're watching these two kindred head out, you see the big fellow. He walks over to one of the sort of like the black London cabs, and he just like knocks on the window. The window wides down. You hear him sort of like mumble something to the driver. He opens the door. The young woman gets in. He gets in afterwards. The taxi starts pulling out and driving off.
Hmm. Okay. Interesting. Alright. Oh, I want to wait for Seth. Actually, is there another taxi nearby?
I tell you what,
Yeah.
roll me a D10. If you get odds, there isn't. If you get
Oh
evens,
god.
there is.
Okay. D10.
No, unfortunately, there isn't.
Nah. We can't wait for an Uber. We need to get there before them. Yeah, I am going to. I guess I can pull my like hoodie up or something to mask my face because that's the important thing. And like Seth doesn't show up on cameras. Oh wait, has that not been established? I don't know. Um, yeah, I will. Yeah, try to hotwire a car.
Okay, that is absolutely fine. So you will be making a wits technology roll.
Could I argue for? Oh no, never mind. They're both the same. Um, okay. Wits. Submit. Zero.
Okay, so yeah, it's not really possible for you to do completely without being caught on CCTV. But like you say, you've pulled your hood up, etc. You've disguised yourself a little bit. You jimmy the door open on this car. You pull out the section of the steering column underneath the steering wheel. Pull the wires out. Strip the plastic ends off. So rubber the metal exposed cables together. After a minute, a few
Yeah.
moments, you're rewarded with the brum, brum, brum of the car starting up.
Yeah. I hope I'm not speaking for Johannes if I say Seth gets in the car. Oh, if Seth gets in the car, then I'll just drive, following the.
Yeah, I'm sure we can assume that Seth gets in. That's fine. Okay, so obviously all of that has taken you maybe 10, 15 minutes. Because you had to find a car. You were trying to make sure there weren't CCTV cameras around. Then you've got to do the actual hot wiring. So it's taking you 10 to 15 minutes to do that. But yeah, Seth gets in the car. You drive off, presumably heading towards the Lays.
Yeah. Hang on. Shadow House. Oh, there's hooks on them. That's neat. I'm trying to figure out how to navigate these character sheets efficiently as possible.
Yep, no problems.
So. Yeah, do we have that? Yeah, do we have that sheet that's just for our like domain?
Okay, it's not a full sheet anymore. But if you look in the locations section for Barking and Dagenham, there's one called Barking City Block, and that has the ratings jotted in it.
Okay. Cool. Okay. Oh, we just have one line? Lean?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Um, yeah, reason I was asking is I want to make some sort of roll to see if I can drive there quickly. Do, 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 do. Uh, can I make the case that the plus one? No, I don't think that's what it's for. Oh,
I mean, you'd probably be looking at some sort
yeah.
of
Can I
witch
make?
drive roll or something similar.
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna. Can I make the case that since it's into my domain, I might know shortcuts or the quickest way to get there?
Yep, that's absolutely fine. I'll take that into account based on the number of successes you need. So
Okay.
I'm going to really say you only need like a couple of successes to like do this because you know the terrain.
Okay. Um. Yeah. That's unfortunately. I didn't take a drive.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, so that's not a problem. So to bring Seth up to speed quickly,
Yeah, sorry about that.
no problems, dude. So what's happened is Adrian's sort of hotwired a car after seeing the two kindred head off in a taxi. You've both piled into the car, and Adrian's been like navigating the streets, like using his knowledge of the domain to like take shortcuts and stuff like that to try and sort of get there as quickly as possible because it took about 10-15 minutes to locate a suitable car and hotwire it. So he's like, right, we need to take shortcuts, etc., to try and get there as quickly as possible. With the successful roll that Adrian got, I'm going to say that you guys like pull up just shortly after the two kindred. So literally, as you guys are driving down the street in your stolen car towards the sort of gate that heads into the Lays Park, you see the two kindred are just sort of getting out of the taxi in front of the gate. You see the large of the kindred, Andrew Crawford, sort of take out a crumpled banknote from his coat and sort of passes it in through the window. He has a brief exchange with the driver, and then you see the taxi pull off and head into the distance. The two of them turn round and they start heading through the gate into the park. Like I say, you guys are just literally like rolling up towards the gate in your car. What do you guys want to do?
Yeah. Um. Steph, can you jump the fence?
For sure, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I say we do that, not follow them, but see if we can just get to Amanda before they do.
Okay. So we don't go through the gate. We
Yeah.
go to the side
just-
and then. Whoosh.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so since it's not really a matter of navigation because you can pretty much head to the centre of the park from any point in the park, it's just basically going to come down to do you move quicker than they do. Now you're only going to really need like a single. I'm going to ask one of you to make me a strength athletics roll. Mm-hmm. You only need a couple of just one of you needs to make this roll. You only need a couple of successes because they're just walking. They don't even know you guys are like here. So,
all right.
Yeah, no problems. You basically get your jog on, and you arrive at the sort of central hut where you can see sort of sat outside on a chair is Amanda Knight. She's got a little sort of fold-out table next to her, and you can see her mobile phones on the table. As she sees you approaching, you've obviously got quite a lot ahead of the other two kindred because you can, if you look, you can just see them sort of walking down one of the paths sort of in the distance. You've got like a good 5-10 minutes before they get here. So as Amanda sees you, she sort of holds her hand up.
I wave and say, "Oh, how's it going?"
Yeah, fine. No sign of these. And she looks around. These two vampires. You said we're gonna.
Yeah, they're coming from that way.
She looks and you see sort of peering, and you can just like I say, just sort of see them in the distance. And she said, I wonder what they want.
Yeah, I don't know
I
either,
don't
and
know.
I'm gonna be right over there. So, John, if there's a place where I could be, still with my shadow cloak, just
Yeah,
stand
there's
somewhere.
like trees and
Yeah,
rocks and all manner of stuff. It's a
yeah,
park, so that's
yeah.
no
So,
problem.
yeah, I'll go like behind a tree and just like because I tell Amanda and Adrian, it's like I'll be there out of sight, listening in.
Amanda looks a little bit nervous, but she's like, "Oh, okay, okay."
Yeah. Um, we don't know, to be honest, if they pose much of a threat. They seem to want to just ask you something, but um, I was kind of alarmed that there were two kindred that I didn't know about.
Yeah, that's the problem. I think that we don't know. We don't know their agenda. They're somehow, at least one of them, maybe connected to you by some relation of. Uh, we don't know, which is hopefully something we're going to find out. But you're going to be safe here, right, with us. You're going to be okay. So I'll be right over there, and I'll nod at Adrian like severely, like we need to keep a hold on this thing.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Okay, so Seth's sort of headed off behind a tree to conceal himself. As they're approaching, what are you doing, Adrian?
Well, wait, should I conceal myself? No, I'll just sit there with Amanda. Um, and I don't know, like even if they're like moving towards us, I will make small talk with Amanda to make it seem like we were just
this is
sitting here
natural.
talking. Yeah, this is
She
normal.
Amanda tries to like engage in the small talk, but she's obviously like quite nervous, and she's like, "Oh, by the way, two vampires we don't know are like rolling up on you." So like she keeps sort of like glancing in their direction, and she's obviously quite nervous, but she's trying to keep up with the small talk. The
And
two,
and Adrian doesn't have any non-sports related sports small talk, so he's pretty bad at it.
well, that's it. You're sort of talking to her about sports, and she's like, "Yeah, sports ball.
Uh, no, I'm
Yes,
talking about MMA.
that team that won that thing." She obviously has like no clue about sports, but she's trying her best. Okay, so the two kindred approach as they get a bit nearer, and they obviously clock that you're there, Adrian. Andrew Crawford, the large gentleman, like I say, he's built pretty much similar physically to yourself. He sort of puts a hand on the young woman's shoulder as though to sort of like slow her down a little bit, and she just sort of like looks at him and sort of, quite gently like, takes his hand off her shoulder and sort of shrugs and then carries on walking forward.
I see this interaction. I assume that he might have been keeping up with the sports, so he might know who I am. And I just like say again, way too casually, like, "Ah, can I help you, mate?"
He looks at you and he says, "Well, I wasn't expecting to see a fella professional here."
Yeah. I also wasn't expecting to see someone who retired so long ago, but seems so spry.
He laughs and says, "Yeah, you don't know the half of it." And then the young woman with him says, "Andrew, I think given the fact that this person's here with Miss Knight," which but Amanda nods, we can assume that he's probably kindred." And she sort of like looks questioningly at you, Adrian.
100, what's that? No, I don't think I can feign ignorance. And like, yeah, yeah, I like this cutting to the chase. None of this. I'm not a vampire shit.
At which point, Andrew Crawford seems to like relax a little bit, and he's like, "Oh well, that's one less thing to worry about." At which point,
Mm.
the young woman says, "Well, Miss Knight, can I call you Amanda?" And Amanda's like, "Oh, yeah, sure." Well, Amanda, we've we represent a group amongst the kindred. and we'd heard a little bit about your recent situation. So, and we're interested in expanding our group. So we thought we'd approach, make the offer to you. Where we've all, and she gestures at herself and Andrew, we've had similar, not the same, but similar experiences of being abandoned by the people who created us, such as we are now, and we've all had to support each other through some quite difficult times, and we know how difficult it can be. So we wanted to approach you just as a bit of a friendly chat, see if you needed any help, see if you might be interested in joining our group. That's all. If you're not interested, we'll go on our way. No pressure. But as I've said, we've all been in the situation you now find yourself in, and we have some experience in helping people through this sort of situation. So here we are. At which point Amanda's... sorry, go ahead, Adrian.
Yeah, I'll speak up and say, now, I don't want to... obviously, she's free to make her own decisions, but if you don't mind me asking, how did you hear about her? Did you know her sire?
The young woman laughs and says, "Oh, no, dear me, no. We heard about her from Finn."
Interesting. Finn hasn't told her. I've met Finn. She didn't mention either of you.
At which point Andrew says, "Yeah, Finn likes to keep things a bit close to her chest, and she can't really blame her with everything that's going on. But you know, she's in charge for the minute." At which point the young woman sort of goes like that and says, "Yes, I believe you've met her as well, Amanda. Finn is the leader of our group. Certainly, when I was created by a member of the same clan who created you, and now you know, Adrian, that like looking at this young woman, she looks like nothing like a Nosferatu." He's like, so and she gets quite a look of distaste on her face. When the creature that created me tried to rectify his mistake, if you get my meaning, Finn was the one who saved me and helped me out, and we were able to put down the twisted creature that made me. And since then, myself and Finn, we've tried to reach out to other kindred who've maybe been abandoned or cast adrift, just to see if we can help them out. Like with Andrew here. Andrew just sort of like looking a bit serious, nods and folds his arms. So anyway, we just wanted to reach out to yourself. As I say, we're a small group of kindred. There's only a handful of us, but we've all taken comfort in the fact that we all know what each other are going through, and we all help each other out as best we can. So we wanted to just extend a hand of friendship to yourself, as someone who could probably appreciate our viewpoint. Amanda's sort of like nodding to this. Obviously, Seth, you can hear all of this going on. You're near enough by.
I look at Amanda, hoping to instill some sort of disapproval to her accepting the offer, but not to be too overt about it.
Okay, in which case, make me some form of social roll. So if you're trying to sort of, it'll be manipulation because you're trying to sort of get her to behave in a certain way. So I'd probably say manipulation, persuasion, maybe.
Yeah. Do you think maybe could I make an argument for like etiquette, since I'm trying to? Yeah, I'm not actually persuading anyone. I'm just trying to, I don't know, subtly have like a sort of, I think it'll be rude for you to accept this.
Yeah, I'll go with that. That's fine.
Well, I'm probably not going to succeed because I am not built for the talkies. Oh, never mind. Maybe.
Okay, so you sort of do your best to imply that to her, but you're a bit hampered by the fact you're not trying to do it overtly. You're trying to do it subtly, which isn't really your strong point. And the young woman does seem to be very persuasive. And you notice sort of the more the young woman's talking, the more sort of Amanda's like leaning forward and looking quite interested and sort of like nodding along. Then Amanda says, "So I'm obviously I'm not very old as these things go, but and she points to like the sort of strange like port wine stain like marks on her own face, her own sort of Nosferatu disfigurements, if you will, and says, "But my appearance changed when I was created by the creature that created me. You said you were created by a similar creature, but your appearance doesn't appear to be affected anyway. I don't mean to pry," says Amanda, "but do you mind if I ask like how that is? Like I say, sorry, I'm still a little bit new to all of this." The young woman holds up her hand and says, "No, that's absolutely fine. I don't mind you ask any questions you want. That's absolutely fine. I don't claim to know the exact science, if you will, behind it, but we've observed that if a kindred creates another kindred and their blood is not particularly strong and they don't have a chance to imprint themselves onto their creation, sometimes it just doesn't seem to take. Like myself, my sire, such as he was as twisted and monstrous as a creature as you could hope not to meet. But whether it's because he abandoned me or some weakness in his own blood, I don't claim to know. For some reason, that particular part of his affliction, and I don't mean any disrespect when I say that to Amanda, it wasn't passed on to me. But that doesn't mean that it was any less psychologically scarring or any less traumatic an experience because of that. So whilst I might look a little bit more normal, if you'll forgive the turn of phrase, than yourself, I do understand the horror, the fear, the shock that I'm sure you felt yourself. And you can see Amanda sort of nodding and sort of like eating up what she's saying and sort of like listening quite intently.
I I look to Grizzly. Sorry, what was his name again?
Andrew Crawford, aka Grizzly.
Right. I look to Andrew and I'm like, so what's your take on all this?
He's like, what do you mean?
What's your angle? What's your perspective?
He says,
on this whole thing?
I haven't got an angle. Like I say, one of Finn's lot helped me out when I'd just been created, and I've been with them ever since. And like, I'll say, look, I'm not going to go into my whole sob story. I'm not one of these like, I'm not like some reality TV contestant like pouring out my life story. But look, let's just say, like with Honey here, and he gestures at the young woman. My embrace wasn't particularly a loving, sort of caring environment, and Eva, one of Finn's lot, found me, helped me out, helped me get over it all. Because they helped me, I try and help them as much as I can. And if Honey and Eva and Finn and that want to like reach out and try and help other vampires, well, I'm all for it. Everyone needs a bit of help every now and again, don't they?
Yeah, you bro her like Finn?
You what?
You same clan as Finn?
No.
Does he not elaborate?
No, okay. He doesn't say anything. He's just like, nah.
I try to like run through like, because Adrian really only has stereotypes, so he's sort of running through that in his head. He's like, Nosferatu? No. If he's not a Bruja, and then I like, yeah. Does he look like he's been running in like forests? Huh?
Well,
Maybe.
he's wearing a fur coat,
Hmm.
but that's what he used to do on stage. So whether that's just like the gear he had, you don't know.
Interesting.
Like I say, he does have a very sort of like, as you can see from the picture, like a very sort of piercing gaze though, and he seems to have this thing where like, when he's talking to someone, he's just like he like doesn't blink at all. He's very intense whenever he's talking to someone. He just like stares at them up, so he's like trying to stare him down. But again, whether that's a vampire thing or whether he's just like a really intense guy.
Yeah. I just have a question. How many other of our kind do you know? Do you know about?
Is this to Andrew you're addressing this,
Um,
or just generally?
yeah, but like, yeah, generally.
Andrew says, "Yeah, we know a few. We know a few. We try not to mess with too many people if we can avoid it. Obviously, some of us have got problems with some kindred, and at which point, Honey, the young woman, says." Look, we don't need to get into like Eva's gripes at the moment. That's neither here nor there. We've all had our problems, Andrew. Like you say, we don't need to be laying
Yeah.
out the whole sob story.
So, who's this Eva?
Oh, she's another one of our group, says Andrew.
They have
Toreador.
problems with someone? Ah, wait. Who says Toreador?
Andrew.
Okay. Does he say it with like disdain? Okay.
He just says it in a sort of matter of fact, gruff tone that appears to be like his standard way of talking.
Yeah, I've heard stuff about them. Huh. Who does she have a problem with? Anyone I know?
Well, without going too much into it, says Honey, one of our group, Eva, let's just say her sire wasn't particularly kind to her, and that's being extremely charitable. And
Mm-hmm.
unlike the rest of us, she's not yet had closure of that particular issue.
All right. Well, who gets closure these days?
Yeah, so unfortunately, Eva's sire's quite well entrenched. He's in some swanky suburban apartment block.
Ah, yeah. Interesting. Well, do you know which one? Adrian has made the connection that it might be the Carlton security guy, but yeah, feigning ignorance.
She says, "Yes, it's I think it's Chadwell Heath. He's in, if I remember correctly. Well, that's where he was when I last heard of him."
Interesting. Oh, how well entrenched can you be these days? There are hardly any of us left.
Well, that's true, says Honey, and that's why. And she turns to Amanda. That's why we think it's so important that we reach out to the younger kindred to try and help them out as much as we can.
In Adrian's head, he's just thinking like, I could kill Andrew as like a just a display of force, something right now, and I'm just going for that. But then I remember one of the few things my sire told me, and that's pretend to be as reasonable as possible, even if you want to tear someone's throat out. And oh well, I will confess one thing. Me and my coterie, forming our own sort of group. So
Oh, really? Says Honey.
yeah, um, Adrian wishes he had the social skills to like be able to tell if she's also faking ignorance. Yeah,
What's the aim of your character or your group? As I've said, our aim is trying to protect and help younger kindred who've had traumatic pasts work through their issues in a way that hopefully doesn't get us all in trouble.
well, I guess we've the same goal, but I guess more general, we want to make sure that that there is a safe place for our kind and in London. And I guess that means making sure we have some influence and making sure that we stave off the Second Inquisition. Like, smart.
Andrew says, "Yeah, Finn said that you'd met in some place, some like disco bar or something."
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, Disco is dead. The club owner of the bar died.
Tough break.
Uh, eh. Um. Yeah. Well, shit happens. Um. But yeah. Yeah. Now, I don't see why. Um. Just to make sure we don't start off on the wrong foot. There's no reason why our groups need to be in any way antagonistic towards each other. In fact, I don't see us as having mutually exclusive goals at all.
Well, it all sounds fairly reasonable, says Honey.
Mm, In fact, did you have contact information? You wouldn't mind swapping with me? It. I just think it would be good if we, I don't know, had a lay of the land, knew what players were in town, as it were.
He says, Andrew says, "Well, I mean, you got Finn's number from that meeting you had."
Yeah, yeah, we know Finn. You know Finn.
There you go then.
Okay. Does the other one share a sentiment?
The young woman sort of she sort of like shakes her head and scratches her forehead a bit and then says, "Well, I'm sure if you know Finn, you know that her haven is Old Dagenham Park, and that's where the rest of us tend to be when we're not out and
Yeah.
about. So
Okay.
we try not to rely on technology too much. You know, it could be a little bit dangerous. You know, these things can be monitored. But like I say, if you've got Finn's number and you know where we are, you shouldn't have difficulty contacting us."
All right. Well, that's good to know.
But as I was saying, Amanda, we'd like to invite you to come to Old Dagenham Park with us, sit down with our group, have a little bit of a chat. If you decide it's not for you, absolutely fine. Go on your way, not a problem. If you do decide that you would like to be a member of our group and you could benefit from some of the help we're offering, we'd be delighted to have you. And Amanda sort of nodding away. Amanda says, "Yes, I think I'd like to at least talk to the rest of your group, see what they've got to say. I don't really want to commit to anything now." "Oh no, that's fine. There's no, you don't have to commit to anything. We're simply asking you to come along, hear what we have to say, and then make your mind up." "Yeah, that all sounds all right," says Amanda. Okay, so while all this is going on, what's Seth thinking about all this unfolding situation?
Very intently listening, trying to absorb as much of it as he can. And this is probably the sort of kickoff in his mind for like, oh yeah, uh, this is a real thing. We're not the only ones trying to do something as a like a faction or a group. So like going forward, this will be the thing that we need to do more, like map out. We didn't know that these people existed, So he's making plans about the future, like oncoming, basically gather all the information possible type of project, planning it all out, and like trying to figure out like which areas to like surveil and
Yeah,
kind of thing. So he's making all these plans in his head as he's listening to this.
excellent. Okay, so Amanda says, so when do you want me to come and visit you? Honey says, well, we're quite happy for you to come now. I don't know if we're all there at the moment, but we're quite happy for you to come now. If you need some time to think, get yourself together, we can wait. That's not a problem. We're not going anywhere. It's at your convenience, Amanda. And like I say, we're just trying to reach out to you and see if you're interested in what we've got to offer, basically. You notice Amanda sort of like glances across towards you, Adrian. Amanda obviously seems interested, and like I say, she just said she wants to go and listen to what they've got to say, but she's sort of like, she's still a little bit unsure of herself, and she glances across at you.
Yeah, Amanda, I think you should absolutely take this opportunity to, you know, seek, I don't know, make sure that you get the support you need and find out about others of our kind.
Yeah, okay then. Yeah, I haven't got anything on this evening, so yeah, I'm quite happy to come and listen to what you've got to say. Nice one. All right then, let's set off now, shall we? Well, if that's all right with you, Amanda, says Honey. Uh, yeah, that's fine. Let's get going, she says. And Amanda stands up out of her chair, picks up a phone, tucks it in her coat pocket.
Yeah. I kind of like turn to him and say, like, not whispering him all welcome, like, just, be sure to send me some texts just so we know that you're safe.
She nods, and Andrew says, "Don't worry, she won't come to any harm."
Oh, never be too careful.
Oh, true enough. And the three of them start sort of like heading northwards towards one of the exits from the Lays, which you know is separated by a small patch of ground from Old Dagenham Park. Leaving Adrian and Seth behind, stood near the small hut in the Lays.
Okay. So, did you get all that? I just say, looking at a random patch of darkness, assuming that it might be Seth.
Yeah, he says, walking out.
Okay.
Oh,
There's another group. There are at least 4 of them. Sorry, was I cutting out?
yeah, there was a bit of a freeze there, but yeah. So a new
Okay.
group with 4 people at least.
Yeah. They said that they knew a few others. I'm not sure if that means they're part of the coterie or not. It seems, as it stands, even if they are successful in drawing Amanda to their side, then our groups currently would be of similar strength. However, this wouldn't be the case if we made sure Fletcher was on our side, and same with Eva's sire. No. You're muted.
Yeah, I just realized that. Truly, it's, of course, it's going to be a process, but there's only going to be one side.
Yes.
Like whatever tags we want to put on ourselves aside from that, but
I mean,
sorry, did we get an idea of like where these people hang out? I'm not sure if that was indicated at all.
Yeah, they said that
Yeah,
they could be found in Old Dagenham Park, which is where
Yeah.
Finn's Haven is.
Yeah. And this is entirely new information to us, so I think we're going to have to stalk the park because we can't really deal with these people with the amount of information that we have currently on them.
Yes, so honey, the woman suggested there was an Nosferatu whose bloodline was diluted. I didn't really follow that.
Yeah, the way that goes is sometimes, and I don't know how it works, but sometimes this, and I'll sort of like touch my fang. Sometimes this doesn't stick, and you come up wrong somehow, like half gone, half not, and it's a whole different set of problems. I think then I don't know that I've ever met someone like that, but I know that they exist. We knew about them before when I was still
Right.
breathing. We knew about that. Like there's different varieties, I guess. I don't I don't really know how that works. Sometimes it doesn't work properly when they try to do what they did to us.
Interesting. It sounds like you're double cursed.
Yeah, you're kind of, well, yeah, I guess there's only degrees of being in a bad place with this, but yeah.
Okay. Interesting. It seems if this group is grows antagonistic towards us, it seems like if they have Andrew and Bruja like Finn, then they might have more combatants than our side. We might have to rely. And I'm sure Adrian can handle himself in a fight. Obviously, I can. Eleanor can. But I'm not sure how amenable they'll be to that sort of thing.
I mean, if it comes down to it, it's not going to be a meeting in the bark with baseball bats on each side.
Yeah.
It's not going to be that.
Yes, well, if we have Blake and Sophia, then...
Oh, yeah. Who knows? Like, I don't.
Well, I was thinking, if we're thinking about what assets we have on our side, those
I was
two...
thinking that if we have, and I hope that we do, if we have the friendship of Blake and Sophia, who knows if they can go to the... sorry, John, what was it? The place with the spirit? The Lays, right?
Yeah. Are you on about the place with the owls? Or
Yeah.
Okay. So that was Raynham Marsh Nature Reserve.
Right, yeah. So who knows if they can pull up something from the reserve, whatever is there. If they can, because blatantly, like Supernova just walked in and lost. Like that just happened to him. So if these two can pull up something from the reserve, we might have a sort of nuclear option in play.
Okay, so I also want to make sure that was Fletcher a Finblood as well? No, they were just a Malkavian, right? Yeah. So I do want to talk to Fletcher and get them on board. They seem fairly isolationist, so I don't think I can push them too hard on that. just have to convince them it's in their best interest if they want to continue what they're doing.
Okay, so are you thinking of perhaps arranging a meeting with Carmen Fletcher, or
Yeah. Did I get her contact information?
you didn't get contact information, but you know she's at the Gable Court care home?
Oh, yeah. I can probably just look up her details and call her. Right.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. You know that she's posing, acting as a counsellor, so yeah, she would have like an office number that would be available.
Um. Before I do that Seth, do you want to? Should we go talk to Eva's sire?
Well, we might as well.
Yes. I do want to find out what's going on there because that seems like a tension.
Yeah, if you think you can dig something up, yeah, for sure. Again, the more we know is going to increase all our chances going forward.
Yeah, and yeah, they might have resources that can be of use to us. Hmm. Yeah, should we get going to Chadwell Heath?
Yeah. So John, we're heading there.
Okay, not a problem. It's a fairly well-known sort of gentrified suburban area. It's situated right on the boundary between Barking and Dagenham and the borough of Redbridge. Like I say, it's been re-gentrified. All of the homes are sort of quite plush looking. They're sort of like mock 17th century style. It's a very rich looking part of Barking and Dagenham, and it's part of the sort of the wave of like urban renewal that's slowly creeping across the borough. So, are you guys heading there in your car, or?
I think it's best we abandon the car.
Okay, no problems. You can certainly walk there. That's not a problem. So as you get to Chadwell Heath, as I say, you start noticing that the fairly sort of normal, sort of utilitarian buildings of the district slowly, the sort of like the tower blocks and stuff like that, slowly start giving way to these like little sort of quite posh looking suburban homes with gardens. The streets are more well maintained. There's more street lamps. You can see there's like more expensive cars on the drives of the houses as you start heading there. It looks to be an affluent suburban neighbourhood. How do you go once you guys are there? How do you intend to locate this kindred?
So is this like a pure like suburb? Like there aren't businesses or anything here?
No, it just looks like a pure suburb.
Okay. Okay. I thought we were going to the security place. Okay. All right.
Well, like I say, Chadwell Heath's like a suburb, but if you want to head to Carlton Security, which is not one of the more industrial areas, you certainly can do. It's entirely down to you guys.
Okay. All right. Well, Seth, do you think we can? Is this just like a needle in a haystack? Do you think we'll be able to find?
So yeah, this is really taking shots in the dark. But given that if we don't have specific information, John, would you be amenable to doing an investigation roll just to see if we can pick up anything anywhere? Because this is literally us just like poking.
I'm amenable to it if you can give me some idea of like how you're doing your investigation.
Okay,
And
so
obviously it'll be a fairly difficult role because, like you say, you're sort of taking
obvious.
a shot in the dark.
Yeah. So I would, or rather, Seth would base it entirely on his experience and understanding of the sort of surveillance and the derived intelligence that Antigen had on like how do these things make their havens. So
Okay.
basically going through the list of like stereotypical like
Mm.
your neighbor might be a vampire if X, Y, and Z.
Love it.
So like a very thin, not that like applicable in real life, but it might be.
Okay, in which case, make me an intelligence investigation roll
Yeah.
because you're drawing on your previous knowledge.
Yeah. Okay. Where's it there? Investigation, intelligence. Oh, 3.
Okay, so it takes you quite a long time because you have to sort of drive around the suburb a few times and sort of like look around, and obviously you're sort of like poring over the homes looking for any telltale signs. And as you're sort of at first you don't see anything, you have to like a couple of drive throughs round the suburb, and you're just sort of about to call it a day and be like, oh well, we haven't really found anything, when you notice one of the sort of homes nearer the centre of the little sort of suburb appears to be quite understated compared to the rest. However, as you sort of look, at first you're like, oh, that sticks out a little bit because it doesn't appear to be quite as posh and quite as sort of overblown as the other dwellings in the area. Like I say, a lot of them are sort of mock 17th century sort of style, whereas this is quite a sort of sleek modern building. But as you're sort of like looking at it with your critical eye set, you can see that despite the fact it looks more modern, more sort of straightforward, you can see that actually there's like little flourishes in the decor, and it's obviously been built with like the finest of building materials, to the point where like it has like a small sort of like picket fence around it, a little gate. The garden's immaculately tended. There's like a vintage car in the drive, and although it conveys a sense of sort of like opulence, but it does so in like a subtle sort of way rather than just like smack, I'm rich. It's more sort of like the domain of someone who like knows they're rich, so they don't feel the need to shout it.
Okay, so this is my best guess. I pointed out to Adrian.
You think this might be the haven?
It might be, or it might just be someone who's sensible with their money. Oftentimes, we can't really tell. Need to take a closer look.
Adrian cannot conceive of being sensible with their money. Okay, yeah, let's take a look.
So, creeping about the property then, John.
Okay. No problems. So what are you guys looking for as you're creeping around the property?
Just...
Vampires?
Well, yeah, first off, like, yeah. Do they actually have curtains on all the windows?
Yep.
Like, are the like details of habitation, are they in place? And then, if everything checks out,
it definitely looks as though someone's living there. But as you look around, you can see that there's quite sort of like thick, heavy curtains on the window, and they all appear to be drawn at the moment.
Yeah. Okay, Adrian, 2 options. I go in to check, or we knock on the door.
Yeah, let's knock on the door.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to the front door. Unless there's a camera, then I'm not coming. I'll be standing in the dead zone of the camera in that case.
Okay, well, can you both make me a wits awareness roll?
Oh, that's a good sign.
Okay, so what happens is this is Adrian, you have a quick glance around, you're like, there's no cameras here, and you're just about to bowl up to the door. When Seth, looking around with a slightly more critical eye, you see there are indeed several cameras, but they're quite well concealed. Adrian doesn't appear to have spotted them, and he's just like strolling towards the door.
And I'm not going to say anything anymore. If he's already in the field of the cameras, then I'm not going to say
Yeah.
anything.
He's not in the field of the cameras yet, but he's just about to step into the field of the cameras.
Yeah, I'll just go, Adrian, there's cameras. Just like
Oh.
through like treated teeth.
Yeah, and with Seth sort of pointing them out, you can see there are like a number of cameras covering all angles to the property, but they're quite well concealed.
We could still go to the door, but I can't come to the door.
Okay, well, why don't you wait there and I'll go to the door.
Okay. Be careful now.
Yeah. I like, pull my hoodie up because, I don't know, maybe footage of like a random famous celebrity going to some random house is kind of weird.
Yeah. Okay, so you head up to the front door. As you get there, you can see there's one of those like little sort of buzzer intercom things. So you press the button, and you speak into the microphone on the door.
And I press it.
You press it. There's a, and then you hear a voice, a sort of slightly crackly, sort of tinny through the speaker. A voice says, "Yes, who is it?"
This is Adrian. To who do I have the pleasure of speaking?
My name is Simmons, sir.
Do I get the sense that this is like the owner of the house, or like is this like could it be like an attendant?
It's possible. Certainly, he was speaking in a very formal way, referring to you as sir, etc. But obviously, you can't really tell any more because you've only just got a brief snatch of conversation.
Right, and just making sure. Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry. We're looking for someone who might be the acquaintance of Eva.
If you'll please wait a moment, sir.
Yeah. He calls the police.
You wait for a few minutes. Nothing happens. You wait for a few minutes more, and then again there's like the little buzz, and you hear the same tinny voice from the speaker say, "If you'd like to come in, please, sir." And then you hear like a, and the door opens, and you see a slightly balding, like middle-aged gentleman stood there. He's wearing like a sort of charcoal grey like business suit and a tie and a shirt. He says, "If you'll please come with me, sir."
Is it alright if my friend joins?
Please wait a moment, sir, and he shuts the door.
5 minutes later, opens. No.
Indeed, 5 minutes later, the door opens, and the same gentleman stood there, and he says, "Yes, that will be fine, sir."
Yeah. Okay. I wave over Seth.
Yeah, I'll put on my baseball cap and pull up the hood as well, looking at my feet as I walk up.
Okay, not a problem. You're shown through into this quite large, sort of opulent looking. It's almost like a small mansion, although it's nowhere near as large. You're shown through a hallway. The gentleman who's leading you in, Simmons, says that there are coat racks over there, sirs, if you'd care to leave your jackets on them.
I do just because it makes me feel fancy.
Yeah, that's fine. He waits for a few moments and says, "If you please follow me, gentlemen." And he leads you down a corridor into what appears to be a large sort of study. Effectively, there's like plush leather armchairs in it. There's a desk. There's bookcases. There's a number of quite nice looking paintings on the walls. And as you enter, you can see wearing a smoking jacket and holding a pipe is a very distinguished looking gentleman sat in one of these leather armchairs. He's just putting some tobacco in this pipe. And as you enter the room, there's almost like a wave of sort of force of personality rolling off this extremely posh looking gentleman in the smoking jacket, to the point where, like, as he looks up and he smiles as he sees the two of you, when he smiles, like a wave of warmth and happiness seems to like fairly radiate off him. He looks up and says, "That will be all, Simmons. Thank you very much. Unless, would either of you care for something to drink?"
Sure.
He peers at you for a few moments and then he says, "Yes, please bring our guests something from my private stock, Simmons. There's a good fellow." "Yes, of course, sir." And Simmons disappears out of the room. "Please, won't you sit down?" And he gestures to a couple of chairs on the other side of the desk from where he's sitting.
Yeah, I take a seat.
Yeah, I'll do so as well. With my back towards the corner of the room, if such a thing is possible, so that I can see all the exits.
Now then, if you do me the courtesy of telling me what causes you to call up my home unannounced at such a late hour, I'd be very appreciative.
Yes, well, forgive the strange circumstances. Where to begin? So, I guess we should tell you who we are.
Well,
I'm
that'd be a
Adrian
good start.
Resnick. Yes, I'm Adrian Resnick, and this is my associate, Seth Morgan. Now, I guess you could say the two of us were recent additions to the nightlife scene, as it were.
I see. Well, in the spirit of common courtesy, allow me to introduce myself. I am Harold Underwood.
Greetings, Mr. Underwood.
And yourself. Now, precisely what is it that I can do for the two of you?
So, as we're all well aware, the recent purge has disrupted some power relations in
He frowns
society.
and leans back in his chair and he says, "Yes, some would see it as a problem, whereas I prefer to take the long view and see it more as an opportunity."
Ah, okay. Then this would hardly require much more explanation. We're seeking to reform the kindred. What's the word? Government, society. Build it up again. To protect us from.
He chuckles a little to himself, and at this point, the conversation is broken by Simmons re-entering. He's carrying some of those like long champagne flutes on a tray. They've quite clearly got blood in them. He puts the tray down on the table and says, "Will there be anything else, sir?" "No, that's quite fine, Simmons. I'll summon you should I need you for anything else. Please go about your business." "Very good, sir." And he heads off, at which point Mr. Underwood picks up one of these champagne flutes and he says, "Your good health, gentlemen." And he,
I'll
I drink
partake.
some. Is this like really nice blood?
wow. Since we were talking about the blood resonances, now
Oh, he's got the good stuff.
now would seem to be a good idea if I can find where the chart is.
I'll try and find that from the PDF. Okay.
226. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so Adrian, can you please roll me a d10?
Can, but I do so reluctantly. 7.
Okay, 7. Okay. So, as you're sort of drinking from this blood that has been thoughtfully provided to you by your hosts, you feel as you drink it, it's got quite a sort of sharp tang to it, and as you drink it, you find that you find yourself becoming a little more excitable, a little bit more sort of like pepped up, as though it sort of like boosted your energy levels. For yourself, Adrian, you'll probably be feeling like a bit more sort of like rowdy, not in the case of I'm about to frenzy, just in the case of like
I say.
Underwood finishes his glass, puts it down, and he says, "Yes, very good, very good."
Yeah, well, yeah, as you know, societies need order. We can't have it threatens all of our existences if we just have like some newly embased kindred running around drinking from whatever they can find.
Quite. Of course, it doesn't do to behave boorishly. Even whilst I admit that the lack of the restraining rules that were enforced by the Camarilla has certain benefits to it. Of course, you're right. Disorder and chaos will only lead to more unfortunateness in the future.
Yes. So you see benefits of mass organization?
I see the benefits, of course. My one small concern would be any organisation such as this requires a strong leader or leadership figure. That was one of the failures of the Camarilla in my own humble opinion, that they lacked strong leadership able to react to the changing situation as it unfolded. Had they had a more dynamic leadership, then perhaps disasters could have been averted.
Yes. Yes. So I kind of like look to Seth. So you're suggesting that we need some powerful leader to just wield power in times of crisis?
Indeed, the problem with organisations that are governed by council or by a group, if you will, is that when a situation presents itself, I mean they're very good for peacetime, but when a situation presents itself that requires urgent and immediate action, the debate, the tedious debating, the back and forth of council leadership can cause an organisation to react sluggishly when clear and decisive action is required.
Yes, I can see some benefit in suggesting that whoever's in charge, although in times of peace, we may, we might, defer to council and constant debate. but they might have the ability to declare emergency powers if need.
Indeed.
Obviously, some kind of protocol will have to be in place going forward, given the danger posed by our current predicament.
Of course. The problem with these protocols, as I say, they can somewhat gum up the wheels of bureaucracy, if you get my meaning. As I say, they're all well and good for peacetime, but
Yes, well, I don't think we'll have peace for quite a long while. So in that, I think we have a similar wavelength in mind. This is war footing we're on now.
indeed, quite clearly,
Yeah.
we're in a time of conflict. One only has to look at our recent history to see the rightness of that.
How about flashing back to when we were driving around in the neighborhood, or walking around the neighborhood looking at houses?
Well, I'm quite happy
So-
for you to do a flashback. Just give me a moment. I'm just going to nip to the
Yeah.
conveniences. I'll give you a bit of time to think about what you want to flash back to, and then we'll crack on in a few moments.
Yep.
Right. Sorry, my internet's just being weird at the moment. Or maybe it's just Google. So this guy's a fascist. Yeah.
It just comes straight out. It was like, do you have a king though? Like, did you pick your king yet?
I was like, I mean, yeah, I have no patience for this democracy. Oh, God. Like, literally, this is like Carl Schmitt's whole thing that, like, ooh, we don't care about like legitimate power. We just want power in times of crisis. And I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. I mean, he's probably, well, dude's a bit old, right? Because he's
Yeah, he might have supported the right.
he might have been the real thing. Like, if we look into his, so John, I sneak into this dude's wardrobe. Is every shirt brown? 'Cause-
Okay, so you guys said you wanted to sort of flash back to earlier when you were sort of
Yeah.
driving or walking
Yeah.
around.
So-
So I'm quite happy to do that. So we cut back to a few moments before when you're sort of like walking through the streets heading towards Chadwell Heath.
Yeah.
So what were you guys talking about?
So the point here is that this is the sire of name insert here.
Eva.
Yeah. And we're trying to find out if there's anything there between them, right? Among other things.
Yes. Well, I think we want to get this guy on our side. And I think the fact that they have a tumultuous relationship with someone on an opposing side is probably going to work to our benefit.
Mm-hmm. So I suppose, how hard do we want to dig on the connection there? Or do we focus on the making good?
I guess if need be, we could. I think if we could get him to like just sign up to the whole starting a new Camarilla or whatever, then that should be fine on its own. I guess I would like to inquire more about their relationship with this side with Eva before we fully like leverage that.
Right. How do we go about that? So we don't have a letter of introduction here.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I would just do things directly. I'll just ask.
Okay, well, yeah, that might work. Who knows? And
Yeah,
okay, then Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so we jump back to the present. You've all just had a drink with Underwood. You're making general chat. You're all feeling pretty relaxed, energized. You're feeling pretty well disposed towards Underwood. Over to you.
So, yeah, I mean, with this in mind, the stuff about, you know, ministry power, making sure people have the authority to act in times of crisis, would you be willing to get on board?
Potentially, it would depend on who the leadership of this new society was and what strictures they were going to impose on kindred like myself.
Oh, from what we've been discussing, I don't think we've been we're gonna enforce anything too harsh. Just what's required to make sure we stay hidden,
Indeed,
make sure that everyone's benefiting from it.
well, that all sounds fine, but what I'm asking is, who is going to be deciding what is necessary? Who is going to be deciding what is necessary to enforce?
Sorry, am I lagging?
Not right now. There was a bit
Okay.
of like rubber banding there.
Okay. Okay. Well, since this society we're proposing will be formed on the basis of protecting us from existential threats like the Second Inquisition, I like gestures to Seth. Well, Seth was once one of their ranks. I can think of no one better suited to acting as a sort of counterintelligence leader, as it were.
I see. So, forgive me if I seem a trifle slow with this. What you are suggesting is, because we have your friend here who was once one of the very enemies that tore down the previous society and killed many of us, that we should place our trust in him to lead the efforts against them. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yes.
I know how the enemy works to some extent. I wasn't the leadership, mind you. There's obviously going to be a set of baseline tenets for us going forward, which everyone will have to abide by to ensure mutual continued existence, which is the thing that we're trying to achieve here. We're all perfectly capable to some extent or another, hiding in our respective cellars. But if we're going to survive this, we need to be together as whatever you want to call it, society. And a society needs a base set of operation procedures and attitudes, which will need to be agreed on and enforced with the mutual agreement of everyone. So if someone steps out of line, it will have to be viewed by everyone as a punishable offense. There is no other way forward, in my opinion.
Okay, so Underwood nods, and then he again with this sort of like wave of serenity sort of rolling off him. He says, "Well, allow me to make a counter proposal. Whilst I agree your friend no doubt has valuable skills that could certainly be useful in this fight against our common foe as one of the more established and influential kindred in Barking and Dagenham, I would like to suggest that I lead this group with perhaps your two selves acting as advisors. And as he says this, you actually find yourself sort of thinking like, yeah, that makes sense. He's obviously quite powerful. He's got a lot of influence. He's obviously quite rich. He's not saying that like we'd be thrown out. He's just saying that like we'd be advisors. So it all sounds incredibly reasonable as he's suggesting it.
That sounds all well and good, but yeah, Adrian, please.
Okay. Since of the three disciplines Adrian's probably aware of, is probably the Ventrue ones, and I'm assuming he's aware of presence. Can I make a roll to sort of like resist that influence?
You most certainly can. You can make a composure plus intelligence roll.
Okay. Is there like a straight willpower roll? Okay.
Yeah, that there is.
No, never mind.
It's mostly going to be social situations. It's going to be composure for the most of the time.
Okay. Composure, intelligence. I think that's correct.
Or if there is, it's going to be rare. The willpower thing.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm going to make a roll for him now. I need to get more than 2 successes.
Oh god.
Okay, so he has beaten your roll by 1. So you're unable to, and I'm sure you've already worked this out, guys. You're unable to resist the effects of his awe, this wave of presence that's rolling off him, and sort of making everything he says seem very agreeable and logical.
Yeah. To what extent? Like, am I incapable of like arguing against him, or?
Oh, you can certainly argue against him. You just find what he's saying very reasonable,
Right.
and it sounds like it's a good solution.
Yes. Okay. I think that would work nicely. However, I wonder if what you're proposing is antithetical to the organization we're proposing. You see, we're trying to, if you think of this like forming a government, we're essentially trying to form a minimal state in order to the bare minimum required to protect us. And I'm not sure if we want to consolidate that sort of power and influence in the way that you're suggesting. In fact, the goal of such an organization would to mean that individuals like yourself would be free to pursue as much power and influence as you want without having to worry about such problems like the Second Inquisition.
I can certainly see the logic of your argument. However, you must be aware that even governments such as that which govern the country that we live in has it has its lords, its parliament, but it also has its prime minister who directs the course of debates and has something of the final say when it comes to issues of import. Now, I'm not saying that I should place myself as the leader in perpetuity. I'm simply saying that whilst we are on this war footing, if you'll forgive the dramatic phrase, we need to have someone who is capable of making those quick, necessary decisions without the society becoming mired in fruitless debate, which, whilst we're debating what course of action to take, the wolves, so to speak, if you'll forgive the phrase, may very well be at the door.
I like kind of look to like Seth because I'm like finding it harder to like phrase things like properly because everything this guy's saying sounds perfectly reasonable.
Yeah, Seth is sort of he's like toying with his beard, scratching his jaw a bit, and sort of like slowly nodding along.
Well, perhaps if you're at least interested, we could, in the near future, set up a meeting with the other kindred, with yourself and the other kindred who are interested, and perhaps we could have a more fruitful discussion there.
Well, as long as I have some advance notice of this, I'm an extremely busy person. I don't see any harm in it. After all, if I'm
Yes.
putting myself forward for a leadership position, I should at least know the people I may be expected to lead. That seems perfectly reasonable.
Yeah, of course.
At which point there's a knock on the door. It opens and Simmons comes in. He takes the empty glasses away. Underwood says, "Would you care for another drink, gentlemen?"
Sure.
Yes, another 3 drinks on my private reserve, if you would, Simmons. Very good, sir. He heads out a few moments later, comes back in with the champagne flutes filled with blood again, puts them down, makes himself scarce. Underwood lifts it up, swirls his glass a bit, and then says, "Well, to a very promising venture, gentlemen."
Yeah, I'll toast. I'm feeling good about this deal. Seems like we're on the right track here.
Well, is there anything else, gentlemen? The hour's getting fairly late.
What is the preferable method of communication?
Of course, he reaches in one of the drawers on his desk. He takes out 2 business cards that have just his name in a simple font and a mobile phone number on it, and he passes you each one of the business cards. And he says, "There you go. That's one of my that's the number for one of my business mobiles. You should be able to reach me on it. If you should get through and I'm not available, you can leave me a voicemail message, and I'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can."
Yes, and just before we leave, are you aware of any other of our kind who survived?
I'm aware of a few of them. There's some, I believe, there's some anarch rabble in one of the parklands to the north, and there's a venturer who runs a security firm. I believe. I've had some indirect dealings with his company, hiring security, etc. I've never dealt with the fellow directly.
Interesting. Huh. Sorry, I might have gotten mistaken. I thought you were that person. Interesting. Interesting.
No, I'm afraid security isn't really my business. He looks down his desk. He takes like a small pocketbook. He has a look at it, and you can sort of see as he's looking through it, Adrian, you catch sight of it, and you see it appears to be written in some sort of code or symbols. It's it's not just written in normal writing. He looks at it, he says, "Yes, Quinn Hopkins, that's the fellow." And then he folds the book up and puts it in his jacket pocket.
Okay. Yes, and I guess I heard from, I suppose, maybe some of the affiliates of the Anarch Rebel that you had a tumultuous relationship with your child, Eva.
As you say the name Eva, you see a brief flash of anger on his face, but he covers it over very quickly. It's just a brief second. Seth, you spot his grip tightens on the arm of the chair that he's sat in, and then with an effort to compose himself, he says, yes, dear Eva, one of my biggest regrets and greatest failures. I almost consider it a mercy that she didn't survive past the purge."
She didn't survive?
No, I'm afraid not.
Huh, and interesting. Now, of course, I don't want to pry too much. I mean, your business is your business. However, I think I may have heard that they were still alive. Uh,
His brow furrows when you say that. He says, "Really, that is interesting. I believed my child to have perished in the purge."
yes. Well, I heard basically the phrase Eva has a I heard the sentiment that Eva has a tumultuous relationship with her sire, present tense. I mean, I suppose I can do more looking into.
Indeed, and I shall certainly look into the matter myself now you've brought it to my attention. Yes, unfortunately, there are. I'm sure you understand when one is of one of the higher clans, such as myself. It's a great deal to live up to. It's something of an ordeal, you might call it, and I'm afraid not everyone is capable of living up to the high standards of my clan. That's why we're quite selective about those we choose for the embrace. Unfortunately, in a momentary lapse of judgment, I chose. And he looks a little bit sad at this point, and he says, obviously, as things were, it was no small matter to arrange permission to create another kindred, and unfortunately, in my in a momentary lapse of judgment, which I've been careful not to repeat, I unfortunately chose poorly.
Well, interesting. Well, these things happen, unfortunately.
Indeed, it's one of my biggest regrets.
Well, you mustn't blame yourself for whatever happened. I don't see what good that would do.
No, I don't blame myself. I believe that I learned something from the experience, and it's certainly made me more I've not embraced anyone since, but it's made me a good deal more cautious should I wish to do so in future.
Yes. So, did you perhaps know my sire?
What was the name of your sire?
Ulysses Milligan.
Ulysses Milligan. He says, yes, I think I did. Business-like fellow, a little bit old-fashioned in his ways, if I remember correctly. From good high clan stock, though. I didn't have extensive dealings with him, but I guess you'll forgive me for saying this. I always thought Ulysses was a little bit out of touch. He'd not adapted well to the modern world. Let's put it that way.
Yes, I got that impression. In fact, I think he embraced me because he needed someone good with technology, and that was a really weird select part of my talents to hone in on.
Suddenly, Underwood's face lights up as though he's just recalled something, and he says, "Wait a minute, you're not the young cannibal that Ulysses used to tell me about, are you?"
Um, um, I'm. I like go over the incident. Yes, my family was involved in an incident. And I got a reputation.
Yeah, so Ulysses did mention you in passing. He said that he was looking to take on I suppose a protege of sorts to help protect his investments, was how he put it.
Huh. Yes, unfortunately, I didn't quite. He taught me about the importance of clans and lineages,
Oh,
but
good.
not of his plans necessarily. What role I should take in this new kindred society.
So, apologies if this is painful to you. Do you know if your sire survived the purge or?
I believe he was killed.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Whilst I thought old Ulysses was like, say, a bit of a relic. For all that, I think certainly in these times we could use the strength of a kindred like him.
Yes, indeed. Um, yeah.
Although
And
I don't know if his plans to move himself up to the top of the ladder, as it were, would ever have succeeded. But it's good to have goals.
yes, yes. Venture prime for leadership in a lot of respects.
Quite, quite. Obviously, the relationship between my own clan and that of Clan Ventrue is a long and by myself a very highly valued one. As two of the higher clans within the Camarilla as was, a lot of the burden of leadership fell to our clans.
Mm, yes. Some of the other clans seem a bit disorganized.
Indeed, my only, I suppose, the only thing that the purge did that was good for us is a lot of the a lot of the lesser clans, the rabble, etc., fell as much as the high clans did. So in a way, it's
Oh,
in a way I believe it's somewhat weeded out the chaff, and those of us who were sensible and prudent have survived beyond it to perhaps remake things in a better image.
yes. See, yes, Mr. Underwood, you seem to be someone who gets it.
That's very kind of you to say. Well, gentlemen, it's getting late. Is there anything else I can do for you? You've got my business
Good.
line number. When you wish to arrange this meeting, please do not hesitate to call me.
Yes, we shall do
Indeed,
so.
we won't.
Splendid. Well, if there's nothing else, gentlemen, I'll have Simmons show you out. And he reaches under his desk and you see him like press what you presume might be like conceal the button or something. And a few moments later, the door opens. Simmons comes in and says, Simmons, my guests will be leaving now. If you'll please escort them out. Yes, very good, sir. If you'll follow me, please, gentlemen. And
Yep.
Simmons escorts you out of the building. You collect your coats, etc., and you're shown out. Okay, so as I say, it's getting sort of like pretty late / early. Is there anything else you guys wish to sort out before you settle down for the day? Anything you obviously you've got a chance to like, have a discussion with each other. If there's anything you want to talk about as you're leaving Underwood's abode, the sort of like wave of warmth and good feeling that's coming off him sort of fades away into the background. Although you're still feeling like pretty well disposed towards him.
Okay, so I think it's safe to say that we can be on the same side of things.
Yeah. I mean, seems like he wants to be in control.
Yeah, that's sort of the comes with the territory. And
Mm.
yeah. So anyway, I had these plans for us looking into things, and then unless Adrian, you have something, we can probably fade out on the like. Okay, so we're gonna stake out this, and this place, and
Yeah.
we're gonna make a
Indeed.
conspiracy board.
And as you're walking away and the sort of end credit music starts to play, you get a text on your phone, Seth, from Zafir, telling you that the alternate haven has been arranged and giving you like the address, etc.
Good.
And you're given the address to the East Brook End Cemetery. It's a fairly small cemetery, but there's there's like a small sort of mortuary with it. You head there. There's a couple of sort of like attendants there, but they've obviously been told that you're going to be arriving, and they show you in. One of them hands you a key to the main door, Seth, and then they say, "Oh, we've been told we're not needed anymore during the evening, and that you're going to be watching the evening shift. So there's an emergency number like pinned up on the board there. If you need anything, just call us. Otherwise, we'll leave you to it." And they sort of made themselves scarce.
Yeah.
And the two of you are left in this like small mortuary, which is serving as a temporary haven to you all.
Okay.
And I believe that is where we are going to end the session, guys. Obviously, I'm happy to chat for a while, but I'm going to stop the stream here.